Hi, everybody. My name is Matt, and welcome to another episode of So You Got a Gun. Today, we're going to be talking about pocket knives and flashlights. We're not going to be getting into a ton of detail on these specific items, but we're going to talk about the things that we carry, the things that we might have started out carrying. I remember my very first pocket knife. I was carrying a pocket knife when I was 8 years old. Obviously now we can't let our kids do that too much because they'll take them to school, and obviously we all know that the times have changed and they can't get away with doing that now. But man, I've been carrying a pocket knife my entire life. I won't leave the house without one. If I realize that somehow I left the house without one, I've got one in my car, one in my my backpack that I take with me, and I've actually turned around and gone home before to go back and get my pocket knife. To me, it's just as important as having my wallet. Alex, how long have you been carrying a pocket knife?
I was given a pocket knife. I think I was about 9 when I was given my first pocket knife, and it was one like 5-tool. I really enjoyed it. I carried it around the woods forever, and it carved a lot of little snares and traps and skinned a lot of little animals. And I upgraded when I think about 15 or 16. I upgraded to like a one-hand open that I carried for a real long time. I'm the same way. I get stuck in like, oh, there's a piece of me missing if I don't have my knife on me, and I turn back around and go get one. But at this point, I think I have extras, so I just tend to leave one in the car too. So save me from having to turn around. I was also a Spyderco and Columbian River knife and tool dealer for about 2.5 years, which led me to learn a lot about knives and a knife steel and their designs and functions and stuff like that. So kind of a cool experience. So I think for this show, we're going to go over a few of the basic knives that we have on the market, some one-hand opens, some different types that there are. The first thing that I would like to mention is that we don't know where you live, so please follow all the laws of your state, region, whatever that happens to be at. For Michigan, we just changed laws. We can now have OTFs and automatic opening knives. OTF stands for out the front. So it ejects out the front via a spring, and I'll have one I'll show you in a little bit. Automatic openings are ones you push a button and it opens like a stiletto, like a school stiletto. Metals. Matt, what do you normally carry? What's your normal carry knife? Like, do you carry a one-hand open or a stiff blade or anything like that? You're muted.
We've got some background noise here. Sorry.
Yep.
Lately, since October in Michigan, I've been carrying an out the front knife just because I know that in the movies it's only the bad guys that carry a pocket knife that does that, but really it's the safest thing you can carry. It is the safest thing you can carry. It's one hand operation. You don't have to get your fingers in the way of anything to close it. You can do it mindlessly. But I used to carry zero tolerance knives because they're an easy one hand open, and it was an assisted spring, and they're very easy to close one handed, but you've still got to get your thumb kind of into the closing window to open up that liner lock or that frame lock and close it down. But yeah, I carry a pocket knife every day, everywhere I go. Obviously, except an airplane or a courthouse. Anywhere I won't end up in handcuffs. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the OTFs. I didn't really think about that when I got mine, about that they are a little safer. With the idea of having it so far out of the way, I don't have to put my finger anywhere near that blade. It's not coming down across my knuckles. It's not shutting up. It's just going straight in and straight out. I never thought about that. And I'm pretty happy with that idea, actually. I've cut myself numerous times shutting a knife up on my fingers, just being careless and not paying attention.
It's really easy to do that when you're cold, when your hands are cold and numb, and you're closing pivot knife with one hand, it's really easy to catch, you know, an edge of a finger, or if your hands are wet, it's also easy to slip. So I really like the idea of not having to even look at the knife to close it. It's not as though it's, you know, it's some insanely difficult task. But if you think back and picture your grandpa sitting on the front porch in a rocking chair, you know, he took his time. He had a little slip joint knife, you know, small. It wasn't a pocket sword. You know, it was just something practical. But it took some paying attention to what you're doing, and you know, now everything's got to be instant and fast-paced, and I want mine right this second.
So we were talking about slip joints. This is my wife's slip joint. Oh, and I think I froze. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is my wife's slip joint. These are called trackers, I believe. And it's just a simple 3-blade knife. You see these a lot. People with one of these. I think he had a case or a buck knife. This is a charade, I think. Yeah. And this is a slip joint. They just, with a little bar in the back, and you simply kind of break the bar open again to close them again. And not very easy to open. Typically trying to get them to open up. You have to have 2 hands on it for sure. But these are very classic. I think every grandpa I think I've ever known has had one of these or something similar to it. The other one that Matt was talking about was a CZ, and that's what these are. This is a one-hand open. You've got to use this one has the flick on the back, the little flickable lever, and it snaps it open. And this one closes by what's called a frame lock. There also is one similar called a liner lock that's very, very close to one another. This one is considered a frame because it's part of the frame that is supporting and stopping the blade from closing. And in order to close this, you have to lift that frame up, which essentially puts your fingers in the way of that blade to close it up. So the one thing I like about knives like this is that you can use them, not necessarily have to have 2 hands to close these knives or to use these knives, which for my job, when I use a knife, I'm usually have a hand in a machine and then having to pull a knife out to cut something inside my machine. So there's no way that I can get my other hand in there because usually I'm holding part of my machine or holding the stock that I'm using to cut. So having something that opens one-handed and closes one-handed is pretty important.
Agreed. You know, the other knives are nice just because they're used a little bit more leisurely. You know, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just you're not going to get to them quickly. That's all. And not everything has to be warp speed. You know.
Very true. That's why my wife carries this. This is her outdoor knife. You know, she carries this for when she's working on the farm and she's cutting open bales of hay, or you know, cutting stuff out of the horse's hooves, or trimming the goat's frozen goatee. The other 2 things I wanted to bring up are what are serrations and what is a straight edge. So these are pretty popular functions. A serration, see if I can get a good angle on that. Serrations are tiny little arcs cut steel of the blade, and they look like teeth in there, I guess. This is a Spyderco knife. It's a one-handed open and close knife. I've had this knife, I think, 20 years, and it's obviously really mangled. I've taken a Dremel to it more than once. But what those serrations allow is it allows for a more rapid cutting surface, but it's not as precise. So if you're planning on cutting a lot of rope or twine, that's what that's for.
Okay, so in Michigan today, it is like negative 25 degrees with the wind chill. So we have a house. Well, he's got a house full of kids at home, and so do I. So that's what you're hearing in the background. So we're like, hey, what better day to do a live show than the day that our homes are full of kids? So
hey, we're family guys.
Yeah, bear with us. Go ahead, Alex. You're doing a good job with the serrations.
Doing great. So serrations are sharp, and in my opinion, they're for kind of messy cutting. Now I know you can hear them. So they're great for rope. They're great for quick, fast cuts that you've got to do. Minor limb removal. I use it in my deer blind a lot to reach out and chop down little limbs that get in the way. So they're good. They're kind of more difficult to sharpen if you don't know how. There's a few tools out there that you can get that can sharpen those serrates. It takes a bit of a finesse to kind of get those sharp, but once you figure it out, it's really easy to do. And the next normal one that you see normally is just a straight edge. These are good for pretty much everything. You can surmise everything that you can do with a straight edge knife. There are also knives out there that have so you would see like the bottom half from here to here would be serrated, and then the rest of it would be straight. Those are pretty popular as well. I'm a huge fan of serrations. I think they work great for a lot of things. So that's kind of what I tend to lean more towards. Like I said, I think this knife's been in my pocket for about 20 years. And it's been resharpened a lot. So it's a good knife, though. It's tough.
I think it's important to note that just like anything else, situation dictates with a pocket knife. So if you are going out into the woods, you might not want to carry your out the front knife. I mean, if it's just something you really enjoy having with you, then hey, no problem, go with it. But it may or may not be as good as your whatever fixed blade knife with a 3, 4, 5, 6 inch blade that is or isn't serrated, whatever. But whatever you can carry comfortably in your pocket. I mean, let's be completely honest. If we're talking about being beginners and carrying different things like this, it's going to come down to comfort first. If this is very narrow, it's a little long, not too.
Dun dun dun! I think we lost Matt. We've been having a little technical difficulties, but what Matt was talking about was the importance of the comfort of the knife. And when we're starting out carrying, whether it's a flashlight, a knife, or a gun, comfort is really what you end up basing the majority of your opinions on. Knife, like my CZ, it's pretty thick, and compared to my Spyderco, they're about the same size, but the thickness is much different, as you can see. So a lot of it's going to come down to your function. What are you planning on doing with it? If you're going to be using it as a last-ditch defensive tool, which, once again, check your local laws, because there's a lot of laws that are strange about how you can talk about how you carry a knife. In Michigan, you can't carry a knife for defensive use. But talk to an officer, find out what their deal is, talk to an attorney so they can tell you the ins and outs of those type of laws. But it comes down to comfort. Some people really prefer the comfort of just sticking this in your pocket, and some people like, the larger knives like this. Now, the other type of knife that we see a lot of, a stiff blade knife. And I grabbed this one quickly because it's the only one that I had available at the time. But this is a Ka-Bar TDI. So it's a non-folding knife. This is a defensive knife, is what they market it as. It's my last-ditch knife for, close quarters combat, in my opinion. It's something that if I'm pulling it out, I know I'm probably already in more trouble than I should be. So, but there's a lot of knives like this that are stiff-bladed knives that are Hold on one second. We are having technical difficulties. So let me do little things here. Do 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 do. Mm-hmm. We may have lost Matt entirely, so I'm trying to do a little something here. Seeing if I can hack to him. He lost the key to the show shut down, so we'll let him back in. But stiff blade knives are an option, however you want to look at it. Okay, so sent the text mail. So stiff blade knives are an option. There are a lot of knives like this. As you can see, this one's not horribly large. As far, I carry this one on the other side of my appendix as my gun to kind of balance my belt out a little bit. It's fully serrated, and once again, this really has one purpose, and that's not what you this is not for cutting paper. This is for other stuff. Go on, bud. Okay, go on, show. Frozen days. So trying to think if there's any other types of knives. The one thing I wanted to show that's a little bit different. Go on, bud. Miles. Go, bud. I know you are. Dan's trying to work on something, pal. So the one thing I wanted to point out is pocket clips. That's basically slips inside the inside of your pocket and allows this knife to stay in place. The thing that you see with like a lot of the slip joint knives like this is that they don't have that method. So if you're standing or you're sitting or kneeling, all of a sudden that pocket knife can fall out of your pocket and you will lose it. Well, some of those knives are pretty expensive. Most of the knives I carry all have pocket clips of some kind on them. Watch your show, Goon. Now. One. Thank you. So that's the some of the major key differences between some of the knives. Once again, it really does revolve around your kind of what you're comfortable with, what you like, what your needs are. Like I said, for me, having something that opens one-handed is a must. At the time I'm in a press, holding stock or holding tape or holding paper, I've got to reach in there and cut stuff up a little bit.
I'm back.
So, hey, technical difficulty.
Good God Almighty! I had to I don't know. I hate computers and they don't like me much either.
It's charter.
So I was just talking about the stiff blade TDI.
Oh,
and just kind of how this is like a last ditch defensive tool for like close quarters stuff. At least that's why I carry it.
Oh.
And I did say specifically to check your local laws because there is a lot of language that gets involved with how you are supposed to carry and if you can carry, and you can't say that it's for defense and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a utility knife. Make sure there's a little bit of steak. Use it at Outback or whatever.
Cut something with it before you put it on. So you'd be like, oh, use it at work.
Yeah.
I was also pointing out the pocket clips and non-pocket clips and how, these keep them in your pocket, keep it easy to access, where these ones might slip out when you're sitting down in a chair or something like that. So
yeah, how many case knives and of that type did you lose in a couch or a reclining chair or something? Oh my gosh.
All of them.
Right. All the time.
So I was a maintenance guy for a long time, and I blew snow up in Cadillac, which is on a big snow belt, so they get snow constantly. And I started collecting knives more than I did originally because I would wait until the spring and go to the snowbanks and go dig knives out of the snowbanks because the guys have these slip joint knives with no clip on them, and they would get out of their car or they'd get out of their Carhartt and it would fall on the ground and it would get plowed up in the snow piles. I would find 6 or 7 of those things a year, just sitting in the snowbanks. Anything from cases to roosters and just little different slip joints and Swiss Army knives, tons of Swiss Army knives. I want to bring up is the importance of stuff like this. If you're in Michigan and you're cold in a slip joint, it's going to be pretty difficult to use with a glove. It's not impossible, but it's pretty difficult. So you need to think about that kind of thing if you're going to be using gloves a lot and how that functions. Is it going to be something you can do? Like even that's kind of hard to close with the glove on. Is it going to be something you can do with the glove or not do with the glove? I can't open my Swiss or my there it goes. So something to consider depending on your situation. Situation dictates what kind of opening you're going to need and use. So keep that in mind when you're picking out your pocket knife.
Yeah. So are you carrying the out the front knife all the time now? Is that your go-to?
I carry them all.
Yeah, yeah.
So I carry my TDI on appendix next to my gun, and then I carry my CZ left hand, and I carry my OTF on my right hand.
Oh, you're not kidding? You carry all those?
Yeah.
Holy cow, Batman. Does your belt have utility pockets in it?
It should. I wonder if I could get Boxer Tactical to make me a pocketed apogee.
The Batman belt.
Batman belt.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be kind of cool. I'd do the Batman logo on it.
I make it an issue. I make it a point to carry the minimal amount of stuff. Like I used to carry, 2 or 3 pocket knives and, just a bunch of stuff. Man, it wears on you after a while. It's like, man, I still have to live my life. And I'm not saying that you're doing it wrong, not at all. I'm just saying that I do it differently than you do.
Sure. And I carry, and to clarify, there's a reason why I carry that way. And to explain a little further, is in the industry that I work in, I cut paper all day long. And I will not carry a razor knife. It drives me bonkers. I break them and they're sharp and they cut and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So I will use my CZ to basically as a utility knife. I beat on this thing religiously. And in turn, I don't with my Microtech because I want to have a sharp knife. So this knife doesn't get used that often. And this is basically if I need to cut up an apple. I want a sharp knife. So there is sort of a reason why I carry 2. And I carry the TDI. This is just part of my gun belt because it's a defensive thing. It's an appendix and it's a last ditch. If I'm ever grappling on the ground with somebody and for whatever reason I don't have my firearm, then I've got my knife to kind of back me up a little bit. But that's the only reason why I carry more than one most days. So.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, I tell you one thing. I never leave the house without a flashlight either, like ever. And people will see that you have a flashlight, or will see that I have a flashlight, and will say something silly or ask a question of, "You're carrying a pocket flashlight in the daytime?" Well, yeah, because I've got a pretty good feeling that at some point today it's going to get dark. I also work in a building that has no windows. I build trucks in Flint, Michigan, and when the power goes out, and it has more than once, everybody starts trying to get out their cell phone and see where they can. There's no, they call throw on a cell phone flashlight. You can see a few feet ahead of you, maybe 3 or 4 at best. But when you have a good pocket flashlight, you can pierce the darkness. So they have some good utility uses as well. But at the minimum, this is a $20. Actually, I think it's less than $20. It operates off of, I think it's a single AAA battery, and it's a Streamlight. It's a really cool little pocket knife. I carried one of these for 5 years before I started getting into other things. Really nice little utility knife. They come with this reed bent pocket clip, so you can put it on the bill of the ball cap if you want to. And I'll tell you what, it's a cool little light. It doesn't take up much real estate at all.
Yeah, I like that rebent on there. I had is it a ProTac that was just a single blade pocket clip, and that was that it couldn't be put on a ball cap. And I really like the rebent clip because I slide them on my ball cap quite a bit. I'm a first aid responder at work, and we've won a few drills at night, or at, simulated night, where we shut the lights off and run darkness drills, and they don't give us flashlights to do that work with. They just go, okay, figure it out. So I'm the only one with a flashlight, and I found that being able to take that and slide it on my cap so I can get rubber gloves on and start dealing with the situation has become very, very important and very handy. So I've actually bought one for my light, which at the moment is currently missing. So I'm not sure what happened to it, but I need to go get a new one.
Kids, man. Kids love flashlights.
Yeah, probably.
Anytime I can't find my flashlight. All right, boys, up against the wall. Who's playing with my stuff?
Pat him down.
Right. I'm gonna have to start locking up my my flashlights like I do my guns.
I think so too.
Man.
At least I do.
Yeah. The next size up that I move into is it's roughly the same size as my pocket knife, really. It's a nice end cap, one hand operation. This is a Streamlight Pro Tac as well, and it's got, I don't know, like how many different settings these things have. They have a high, a low, a strobe, and some other stuff, but you can program these how you want them. I just want a bright light all the time. And I realize that if the light is really bright and you can look at what you want to see, and you kind of have light come back in your face and blind yourself a bit. But if you play with how the beam throws out, there's a hot spot in the middle, then there's this throw on the outsides. I don't think I said that right. The throw is the depth you get your light to. I'm sorry, but you get this hot spot and then the splash. Exactly right. Thank you. But if you play with getting the hot spot away from what it is you're looking at, then you can still use this very, very easily. And then put a little rubber ring on my pocket clip, so this kind of hangs out of my pocket a little bit, and it makes it easy, again, with gloves on or hands being freezing cold. You can find this a lot easier.
I also will loop that around my finger, so that I have the option to let go of the light, do something, and then flip the light back up. That's another. I think is it Theorem that makes a little addition?
Yeah, Theorem.
Theorem makes a little loop addition. Those are pretty slick. I haven't. I used one, but I haven't. I don't actually own one. I thought they were pretty slick. I had one borrowed one on a Surefire.
Okay. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I've tried them out. For me personally, that's not my thing. I don't like the rigid finger loop because I just personally don't. But this is a bendable, twisty. If you're
just an O-ring, isn't it? It
really is just an O-ring. But it came with a clip. This clip right here I bought for this. What the heck is this? It's a Surefire. I can't even remember what the model is, like G2X or GX2, something like that. But I bought this clip for this particular light, and right here is where this loop actually went. And I'll tell you what, just to get the light out quickly and easily into your hand so you can see, it really, really makes a big difference. So if you like the rigid loop, the Theorems are awesome. They make awesome stuff, and they don't make just the finger loop. They also make battery holders. Well, you can use them to hold anything, but I use them primarily for holding batteries. Excuse me. But they're super, super nice.
Do you remember if the Theorem flashlight loop has the little pointed knuckle spike on it?
I don't believe it does.
Or is that another manufacturer? I was looking at something along the lines, and I don't remember who made it now, but I thought it was pretty neat because it was a flashlight and an addition loop like the Theorem. But on the outside of the knuckle, it had a little point spike. And the only thing I thought that was useful in that situation was for joggers. And I know a lot of people jog and maybe they carry mace in one hand and a light in the other. But that was sort of an additional defensive equalizer that you could use to at least kind of make a punch be a little bit more effective. And I think it was Theorem, but I don't think so now that I was looking, trying to see on their website, but I don't see it now. Who manufactured that? It may have been part of a light for all I know, but just kind of something interesting.
Okay. Since you brought up the self-defense aspect of this, they have, excuse me, different crowns, different bezels on these things. Like this is just a kind of everybody's seen the advertisement for this. It's a special forces, blah blah. It's not a special forces anything. It's really kind of a piece of junk. It's super bright and it throws light fairly well, and you can extend this thing all the way out or bring it all the way back, but you can be walking in a 20-foot circle of light. I mean, it is pretty cool. I don't think it will stand up too much as far as heavy use, but I'm showing this so you can see that crown. Now, if you have something like this on your regular small pocket flashlight like this, it's going to eat up your pockets. It's going to eat up your jeans or your Gap, chinos or whatever it is you wear. But I think that people consider.
Did you just say chinos?
Yeah, I wanted to be funny. You're ruining my joke. I think that people want to use this as a self-defense instrument, and that's fine. Blunt force tool. I would say, see if you can get something more along this size, so you can wrap your fist around it. Even this will work. I don't want to have to be relying on a bezel if I don't have to, but I get the idea. Hopefully, that's why people have other self-defense mechanisms in place. Yeah, like a pocket knife.
So this is my favorite daily carry.
Holy cow! Do you have a loop on your belt for that too?
Yes, I have a holster for this.
Holy
I'm just joking. This is just one of our yards, but we have. I think lighting is a pretty important thing. We live out in the country, and being able to identify what it is that you're interested in is really, really important. And we come across this a lot where, I like to propose a scenario, if I may. I heard about it years and years ago, and I know it might be an urban legend at this point, but basically the story is a guy is at home sleeping. He hears a crash and a bang, comes running downstairs with his gun, sees a dude in his kitchen, shoots him dead. Come to find out, the guy was his son coming home from college and forgot his keys and broke the window to get inside the house. So I bring that story up because it's really, really, really important to identify what you're planning on putting the muzzle of a gun on. Whether that's with turning on the lights, which may not be the best idea at the time, or using a flashlight, even if it is your $5 Meyer Rayovac, or the pocket light you have in your pocket, or a weapons-mounted light. Identifying that is really important. I can account for when I first moved into our house, we had a large coyote problem. And I was getting rid of coyotes attacking our chickens pretty regularly. And I walked out one evening pretty late, I think it was about 3 a.m, to dogs running around in my backyard, flipped my light on, beamed them with it, with an AR, ready to shoot the coyote. And it was actually the neighbor's dog. And I'm going to be pretty sad to shoot the neighbor's dog. So identifying the problem, identifying what you're trying to look at is very, very important. So carrying a light, carrying a way to identify something if you can't quite make it out in the dark is pretty much as vital. I think in my scale of importance of a light comparative, it's right up there with a gun and a pocket knife. It's probably the third next thing. Maybe a med kit might be in there is maybe the third and fourth, but it's pretty darn important.
Yeah, that kind of thing happens more regularly than we would like to admit, about a loved one accidentally shooting, negligently shooting another loved one. It's, people have, I have a light on several of my handguns and my rifles and whatnot, but I also realize, especially with handguns, because that's primarily what I use, everything that I need to see doesn't need to It doesn't need a gun pointed at it. That's why even with a light on my pistol, I still have a flashlight in my hand, because I think I've told this story on the show before where I was like 5 and my dad came down the stairs with a 357 Magnum, and he didn't know it was his kid downstairs trying to get, a cookie out of the cupboard or whatever it was. But he identified himself, so, and it scared me, and we figured all that out. But hold on here, I've got some sound going on in the background.
The children. Dun, dun, dun.
Somebody got in trouble. Shooing them away. Go.
I was laughing because we have a Frozen day and my kids are watching Frozen.
That makes sense.
And my youngest comes over and goes, "Hey, Dad, it's cold outside. Who ticked off Elsa?"
Makes sense.
You did, son, because you didn't go to bed last night.
Right. It's all your fault.
All your fault.
All your fault. And I don't know if we want to get into the whole deal of how much light you need. If it's not daylight, I mean, it depends again on what your task is. If you're using this as a task light, an administrative light, then this little sucker right here, I don't know what the lumens that it puts out. I don't have any idea. Unless it was for a self-defense situation, this thing has been great for me. It's been perfect. And again, it runs off of one AAA battery. Fantastic. I love it. For me, I'm left-handed, and I carry most of my pocket tools in my right-hand pocket, so my left hand's free. My seatbelt would always catch this, and you can see this spring is actually kind of deformed because my seatbelt has caught this so many times. That's what I normally break these. I normally break them off right here and sand it down smooth. Shoot, I forgot where I was going with that.
Oh, we were talking about lumens.
Right.
So one of the terminologies is lumens, and that designates how bright a light is.
Right. I remember when we would see it's a 1 million candle power, and then I saw this lumens. Like I know what candle power is. I mean, I can relate to it. I don't know what it is, but now they started throwing around this term lumens and candela, and you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't care. Is it bright or not? So typically, I find that anything north of 250, so 250 lumens, 300, 350, excuse me, does the trick for me for most things. Now, I do have some that are 500, 600, 700 lumens, and they're awesome. Do I need them? Of course I do, because I would love to have them, because as Will Petty says, if it's not brighter than the big ball of fire in the sky, it's not enough light.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. I like all the lumens. If I can get a light that's got 20,000 candle power or whatever it is, then I'll take it. And I know a lot of people have talked about the blinding splash, like hitting a window. Like if you're going through your house trying to look around for something and you hit a window or the side of your white fridge, you're going to blind yourself. Look away. I think it's kind of the easiest explanation for that. I've gone through my house. I have an 800 high lume on my pistol for my weapons light, and I've gone through my house and splashed the windows and mirrors and glass and tried to see how long was it going to take for me to be disoriented enough that I can't see something next to it. If I look away right away, can I look at the floor and go, yeah, okay, I see that there's something there. And it's pretty easy just to look away from it and go, okay, and not look at it. Move the light away from it, and you can see using the outer diameter of the light, not the hot spot, but the outer splash to look at something, as opposed to that bright middle beam. You can, move it to the side to be able to do that. The other thing I tend to do with my lights is I carry them up and kind of at an angle down a little bit, and that causes that reflection to go a different direction as opposed to directly back into my face. If you carry it like this, that light tends to go up and forward and back instead of going right back into your face. And it still allows you to see what you're looking at.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. And the other thing is, if we're talking about not being, G.I. Joe commandos, we're talking about just at home for the most part. You pretty much know your own house, don't you? I mean, you kind of know where the bright, the slick white refrigerator is at, or you know where your windows are. And if you don't, spend one night in your house walking around in the dark with a flashlight. I mean, those are things that, I know where I'm going to walk and like stub my toe. I know that because I live here. It's a little bit worse now since, after Christmas, like there was no joke, there was a skateboard at the bottom of the stairs. Super awesome. I almost did a Homer Simpson. So we had to have a talk with the kids. But you know where the boards creak in your floor, and you know where you stub your toe, and blah, 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 right? So at least for your home, that's not true. If you are absolutely worried about those types of things with your light in public, well then fine, that's public. Use something different. But at least at home, have the opportunity to see as much as you can, because being able to see is having the opportunity to gain information. And it doesn't matter if it's something you dropped and you're looking for, or there's someone in your house, or something in your house. Hell, we have bats flying around out here sometimes. We live in the woods.
Raccoons.
God, I don't ever want to have a raccoon in my house, dude.
We have an open back porch that is kind of like partially open, and just as a railing. And we used to leave like the feed bags up there sometimes. And middle of the night walking down here, I'm like, what is that noise out there? Flip the porch light on, there's like 6 raccoons hanging out in the feed bag. It's like, we gotta change that.
Honey,
that's gonna be
we're gonna get the kids new hats.
Cool. You guys hungry?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, my wife just thought I called her.
No, not you.
Are you giving shouts out to all the moms who are keeping the kids quiet?
Well, what?
So are you giving shout outs
Yes.
to all the moms who are keeping the kids quiet?
Shout out for keeping, to the moms for keeping all the kids quiet.
Absolutely, ladies. Thank you. Thank you.
My wife's a teacher, so she's pretty good at it.
Oh, wow. I'm not sure what my wife is. I think there was threats of violence for my quietness.
That's cool. That'll work.
Right now.
Right. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a total flashlight nerd, geek, genius, whatever. I know what I like after I get to play with it a little bit. So again, if you've got people like us in your lives, ask them, hey, what kind of pocket flashlight do you carry and why? Realize that some of these, most of these are going to be more expensive than your typical, like you said, your Home Depot Rayovac light. And it's not because oh, it's a self-defense light, so they're gonna, anytime they put tactical on something, it's gonna be black and it's gonna be jumped up by 30%. It's not like that. There's a lot of lasers and robots and stuff going on inside of these tail caps, and they're very durable. They're very well built. They're just far and away a completely different animal than, again, the Duracell or the $15 or $20 flashlight. They just are. Now, with the exception of something like this that's made by Streamlight, still, and it just operates off of the single AAA battery. But I think something like these ProTacs, what are they, like $45? $40
or $50, depending on where you get them at.
Okay, and then this is a Surefire, which typically tend to be kind of top of the price range in their allotted tiers. And this is probably somewhere around what, 60, 65? I can't remember anymore. But
the low lumen one is like 65, and they go up to 100, I think, on that.
Okay, so if you want to get into something like this, figure you're going to spend between $35 and $100. Figure out how bright do you think it needs to be, and then figure out which company do I want to go with, A, B, C, or D. Now, typically what you will find is Streamlight and Surefire. those are the two that are like the most trusted brands. Not that the other ones aren't good, or not that they don't work, because we all know that they do to a degree. They have drawbacks, and this show is not about why what other lights aren't good or whatnot. But
the one thing I wanted to point out about them is that the warranty differences. I've worked both with Streamlight and Surefire and Olight, which is another popular light out there that are kind of up and coming. But the warranties for Streamlight and Surefire both, they don't even ask questions. You email them and say, my tail cap doesn't work. They're like, okay, cool, we'll send you a new one. 2 days later, it pops in the mail, you throw it on, you go about your day. The same thing with Surefire. They're probably top of the line warranty guys on both those companies. And you pay for that. And for me, how hard I am on lights, it's important, because when that thing stops working and I paid $50 for it, I want it to be working. And they have never had a single question when I've sent stuff back to them. They're just like, okay, cool. They send you a new one, or they send you the part that you need. Same with Surefire. They've been like, cool, no problem. We'll send you what you need. No questions asked. Or send the light back to us and we'll fix it, or we'll send you a new one. That's usually their answer. So I think that speaks a lot to me for that. Unfortunately, they don't replace lost lights, which sucks.
Oh, they wouldn't be able to stay in business like that.
Right.
I lost one of these before I had the pocket clip. Went right out to Raven Concealment online, and I ordered a 3-pack of them. They're wonderful. So something that I can't remember who was telling me, but the Surefire lights, he'd been in Iraq and Afghanistan. Anyway, he'd seen the aftermath of bombs where guns were in pieces, but the Surefire lights were still intact and still worked. So for him, Surefire was the way to go. And I've heard nothing but great things about Streamlight. I don't know anybody that has had serious issues with Streamlight. So I like those as well. For the price point, either one of them, they're great. And you can get into some high dollar stuff, or you can keep it at 100 or less.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other light I only had experience with was Pelican, and I had some old police Pelican lights that were like the big rechargeable police baton lights, and those were pretty good. But I don't know if they're still around anymore or not. But
yeah, I do kind of remember those. And what we're getting at is you don't have to have the three D cell battery mag lights that are this big. They don't put out a fraction of the light that something like this does. Because it's a different battery source, it's a different kind of bulb. It's
the average incandescent light that you find in like a mag light or your average, Duracell light puts out about 50 lumens, between 25 and 50 lumens, which is in the dark enough to see one spot, but that's really about it. The light, like the ProTac, the second light, the medium-sized light that you have, that puts out 350 lumens on full juice. So that's a lot of lumens.
Right. And realize that once you're using this light often, or even just as a task light, it's not going to be at 300 or 350, whatever its topped out is, because those batteries don't stay at 100%. Once you start using them, they start to deteriorate. So realize that you need to keep some spares around. But yeah, the difference in size and weight for something like this, as opposed to that 3D cell mag light, you get a lot more out of this, unless you need a baton or a club. This isn't going to do that job. But those mag lights, I'm sure they had their place. They don't have a place with me anymore, just because of what they take to keep them running. And I can't put it in my pocket so easily as I can with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm agreement. They haven't quite kept up with the times. They're just starting to put LED lights in their stuff, which gives them a little bit more lumen, but they're still not quite there yet. I think that's pretty much about it. You got anything else that you want to bring up about knives or flashlights?
No, I mean, again, guys, that's just kind of think about, guys and gals, think about the situations you find yourself in your daily life, and what do you think would be conducive to that? Maybe you work for a car dealership and you don't want a pocket clip scratching up against all the cars on the lot. Just anything like that. Something else, we are going to be eventually getting out to the other side of the state. Well, for me, it's the other side of the state, to Grand Rapids. And we're going to be getting with, can I just say, name? We're gonna be out there with Holland Tactical, Holland's Tactical Solutions. Sorry, they do all kinds of cool stuff, but we're going to, record, video them mailing a slide, and we're gonna do a show with them and stuff. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that going in the next month or so. It's kind of what we're shooting for. We were planning to do it over the Christmas break, but my God, it was so frigid cold that I don't think we nobody left the house. So with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. Alex, you got anything you want to say before we close it?
Yeah, the only other thing I thought about flashlights is, I'll make a quick point. I think it was William April was talking about, he's the guy that does all the stuff about how criminals think, right? That's William April, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So he was talking about how important it was that when you're approaching your vehicle to take your flashlight out and just go around your vehicle in a parking lot, because that motion alone shows criminals that you're not unconscious of your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And, he was saying, one, if there's somebody there, hey, you just put a big light on them and they're probably going to run away. And two, if you're being watched or followed, that motion goes, hey, this guy is not oblivious to his surroundings. He's purposely scanning his car, so he's aware of what's going on, and that will probably turn them off from continuing to be a predator towards you. And ever since then, I got in that habit. If I approach my car, I work second shift, so usually I hit Walmart or Meijer pretty late in the evening. I walk out. I usually swing around my car kind of wide. I flip my light out and just shine on both sides of it and under it real quick, and it's just habitual. And never found anything, but I think it is a good idea to kind of let people know, hey, I'm not an idiot. I'm looking at stuff. I'm approaching my vehicle with caution, and I'm being aware of my surroundings.
Good points.
So
absolutely good points. Okay, go ahead.
I was just tied up. I think I was going to bring up kind of our book that I've been reading. I'm a big book nut, so I listen to a lot of books. I want to make sure I get the title right here. So I've been listening to the Killing School, and let's see if I can get the actual title. The Killing School: Inside the Deadliest Sniper Program by Brandon Webb. And what I thought was really cool about this book is it follows 4 of snipers from different eras throughout the military, whether it was a Marine Scout sniper or a Ranger sniper or the Canadian who got the longest shot. They followed them throughout their careers. They go through training, they go through what they did and how they did it, and then they go all the way up to their latest mission. And it kind of bounces around a couple of the really popular snipers. It's a very cool book. Brandon Webb's wrote a couple of books, but so far, this is one of my favorite. It's very, very kind of very insightful. It gives you a little bit of how they teach, how they learn, how they shoot, a little bit into the way their minds work, and I think that's pretty cool. So, good book.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out myself. I listen to a lot of audiobooks as well, and just at work, it makes it easy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move to wrap this up then.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another So You Got a Gun. We'll see you next week.